Practice test. Listening section. Directions. In this section, you will listen to one conversation and 3 lectures. You will hear each conversation and lecture one time. After each listening passage, you will answer some questions about it. Most questions are worth 1 point, but some questions are worth more than 1 point. The directions indicate how many points you may receive. You will have 30 to 40 minutes to both listen to and answer the questions. The questions ask about the main idea and supporting details. Some questions ask about a speaker's purpose or attitude. You may take notes while you listen. You may use your notes to help you answer. Your notes will not be scored. In some questions, you will see this icon. This means you will hear part of the conversation or lecture again. When you are ready, press Continue. 1. Campus life. Listen to part of a conversation between 2 students.
We don't have nearly enough things to do for fun on campus. Why can't we have more plays and art fairs and dances?
You're right. But did you know about the new student activity fee?
So what? What's the good of it?
Well, it means a lot more money for things like that.
You don't think our drama club will really get any of the money, do you?
Well, it could.
What do you mean?
Well, I was looking at the university website. They're giving $500 to each registered student organization. So if it's not already, we should get our drama club registered. Then we can ask for $3,500 more after that. We just have to come up with a special program.
Wow, let's do it. What is the website again?
It's the Ohio Union Activities Board. In fact, they're looking for student organizations right now.
Really? How come they have so much money?
Well, every new student at our university pays $15 into the fund. It starts this year. That wouldn't be very much money for another couple of years, so our university president is putting in a bunch more money. It's coming from other programs at the university.
Oh, I get it. So we can do some cool stuff with our drama club. Remember that idea we had to do Shakespeare plays in present-day settings?
Yes, of course. That's why I was looking on the website.
Good thinking, Sandy. How do we officially register our club?
There's a form we fill out on the website.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. Number 1. What are the people mainly discussing? Number 2. What kinds of programs will the student activity fee pay for? Number 3. Why do the 2 students want to get some of the money? Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
Remember that idea we had to do Shakespeare plays in present-day settings?
Yes, of course. That's why I was looking on the website.
Number 4. What does the man remember when he says this?
Remember that idea we had to do Shakespeare plays in present-day settings?
Number 5. The woman explains how they can get the money. Summarize the process by putting the steps in the correct order. Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
Remember that idea we had to do Shakespeare plays in present-day settings?
Yes, of course. That's why I was looking on the website.
Number 6. What does the woman mean when she answers the man?
Yes, of course. That's why I was looking on the website.
Two. Art. Listen to part of a lecture in an art class.
Embroidery is today's topic. Embroidery. What is it? Embroidery is needlework in which designs and pictures are created by stitching strands of some material onto a layer of another material. Most embroidery uses strands of thread or wool, but embroidery could use different materials, such as wire or leather strands. Embroidery designs are usually stitched into a woven fabric, such as blankets or carpets, but designs can be embroidered onto many materials, including leather, felt, and plastic. Embroidery has traditionally been used to decorate clothing and household furnishings such as tablecloths, towels, and bedding. But you can embroider anything as long as it is made from an evenly woven fabric and can be held firmly in the hand or in a special embroidery hoop. Embroidery has also been used as an art form and for decoration. One of the most famous embroidered artworks is called the Bayeux Tapestry, B-A-Y-E-U-X. It was made in England in the year 1077. This tapestry is like a huge blanket. It's 70 meters long and 0.5 meters wide. It has 58 scenes that tell the story of the events leading to the Battle of Hastings in 1066. In the Battle of Hastings, you'll recall, French soldiers from the region of Normandy defeated the English army under King Harold. The Bayeux Tapestry used wool that had been colored with vegetable dyes. The colors of mustard yellow, olive green, dark brown, and off-white can be found in cloth traditionally woven in the region. Another famous embroidered artwork is the Bradford carpet. It was made in England in the late 17th century. The Bradford carpet covers an entire wall, but it was originally made not as a carpet, but as a table covering. It was stitched on a canvas, like a painting, and uses silk thread. We call this style Elizabethan embroidery in honor of Queen Elizabeth. The carpet shows countryside life in a simple, realistic way. There are many different embroidery styles and stitching techniques. Unfortunately, machines embroider most of our clothing today. Hand embroidery has become more of a hobby than a regular occupation.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. Number 7. What is the topic of the lecture? Number 8. According to the professor, what is the definition of embroidery? Number 9. Why does the professor mention the Battle of Hastings? Number 10. Match each of the examples with the appropriate category. Number 11. Why does the professor say this?
In the Battle of Hastings, you'll recall, French soldiers from the region of Normandy defeated the English army under King Harold.
Number 12. What does the professor imply when he says this?
Unfortunately, machines embroider most of our clothing today. Hand embroidery has become more of a hobby than a regular occupation.
Three. Health. Listen to part of a lecture in a health class.
We are always sweating, even when we don't notice it. It's the major way that our bodies get rid of extra heat. Body heat comes from moving or from taking in food. We sweat different amounts at different times. When the weather is hot, or if we move a lot, we sweat more. When we have very strong feelings, we might sweat more too. Inside our bodies are small things called glands. These glands get water and other materials from our blood. They use it to make sweat. We know that sweat is mainly water because it feels wet. It has salt and some other materials in it too. We all know the salty taste of sweat. Now, look at the picture of a sweat gland. The bottom part is coiled. It goes around in circles. Then it has a straight part. The glands bring in sweat in the coiled part. Then it moves from the coiled part up to the straight part. There, if it's not needed to keep us cool, it can be taken back in again. So, not much sweat reaches our skin when it's cool, and that's a good thing too. Can you see yourself in the winter putting on heavy clothing to keep warm, but there you are sweating? It would be very hard to get warm. Now, when it's hot, or we are exercising, well, that's another story. The glands make a lot more sweat, so they can't take as much of it back in again. A lot more comes out onto our skin. Of course, this is very good for us. As it dries, it helps us stay cool. Can you see yourself at the gym working out, lifting weights maybe? How would you feel if you didn't sweat at all? People who live in cold places only sweat about 1 liter per hour. But if they move to a hot place, their bodies change. In about 6 weeks, they'll sweat as much as 2 to 3 liters per hour. That seems to be the most that people can sweat.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. Number 13. What is the professor talking about? Number 14. What happens to sweat when it is in the straight part of the gland? Number 15. What reasons are given for sweating more sometimes? Choose 2 answers. Number 16. Why does the professor say this?
We sweat different amounts at different times. When the weather is hot, or if we move a lot, we sweat more.
Number 17. How does a sweat gland make sweat? Summarize the process by putting the steps in the correct order. Number 18. What does the professor imply when she says this?
If it's not needed to keep us cool, it can be taken back in again. So, not much sweat reaches our skin when it's cool, and that's a good thing too.
(4) Biology. Listen to part of a talk in a biology class.
Look closely at this picture. Is it a mouse or a rat?
It's a mouse.
Rat.
How about this one?
Rat.
Mouse.
Ah, it's hard to tell, isn't it? The terms mouse and rat are not scientific classifications. They're words common people use to distinguish these 2 rodents. We use rat to describe medium or large-sized rodents with long, thin tails. There are many different kinds of rats: kangaroo rats, cotton rats, Norway rats, black rats, pack rats, etc. We use mouse to describe tiny rodents with long, thin tails. There are many different kinds of mice: house mice, field mice, deer mice, etc. Some of these different rodent species that we call rats and mice are closely related. But other rodent species are not related to each other at all. Usually, when people refer to rats and mice, they mean pet rats and mice and pest rats and mice. This means Norway rats and house mice. Norway rats and house mice belong to different species. A species is a group of related individuals that can mate and have babies. Humans and horses, for example, belong to different species. Even though Norway rats and house rats are different species, they are related to each other. They both come from a common ancestor that lived millions of years ago. The descendants of that ancestor evolved into different species. So, how can we tell Norway rats and house mice apart? First off, adult house mice are much smaller than adult Norway rats. A house mouse weighs about 30 grams. Its body and tail are both about 3 to 4 inches long. A Norway rat weighs between 350 and 450 grams for females, and 450 to 650 grams for males. Their bodies are 9 to 11 inches long and their tails are 7 to 9 inches long. The heads of Norway rats are heavy and chunky. The heads of house mice are triangular with pointed muzzles. Note, though, that Norway rats have smaller ears relative to their heads than house mice. Now, what's this?
Mouse.
And this?
Rat.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. Number 19. What is the talk mainly about? Number 20. What type of rodents do we usually refer to when we say rats and mice? Number 21. According to the professor, why is it difficult for people to distinguish rats and mice? Number 22. Match each of the examples with the appropriate category. Number 23. Why does the professor say this?
We use rat to describe medium or large-sized rodents with long, thin tails.
Number 24. What does the professor imply when he says this?
Some of these different rodent species that we call rats and mice are closely related. But other rodent species are not related to each other at all.
Speaking section. Directions. In this section of the test, you speak about a variety of topics. You will record your answers to 6 questions. Answer as completely as possible. In questions 1 and 2, you will speak about familiar topics. You will be scored on your ability to speak clearly and coherently. In questions 3 and 4, you will first read a short reading passage. This passage will disappear, and you will then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will be asked about the information you have read and heard. You will need to combine information from both the reading passage and the talk to provide a complete answer. You will be scored on your ability to speak clearly and coherently, and how accurately you convey information about what you read and heard. In questions 5 and 6, you will listen to part of a conversation or a lecture. You will be asked about what you heard. You will be scored on your ability to speak clearly and coherently, and how accurately you convey information about what you heard. You may take notes while you read and while you listen to the conversations and lectures. You may use your notes to help prepare your response. Listen carefully to the directions for each question. The directions are not shown on the screen. For each question, you will be given a short time to prepare your response. A clock will show how much preparation time is remaining. When the preparation time is up, you will be told to begin your response. A clock will show how much response time is remaining. A message will appear on the screen when the response time is ended. If you finish before the allotted time, press Continue to go to the next question. Question 1. What is the best vacation you have ever had? Give details and reasons supporting your answer. Question 3. The federal government is planning to introduce a new scholarship. Read the announcement about the new scholarship from the Ministry of Education. You will have 45 seconds to read the announcement. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students as they discuss the announcement.
Wow, that's great news. I really don't want to go further into debt with more student loans for next year.
I don't know. I don't like this kind of scholarship.
Why not? You're an excellent student, Mary. I think you will get one.
Didn't you hear? They're not awarding them based on academic performance. They're awarding them based on financial need.
So, all university students are in financial need.
True, but they award this kind of scholarship based on the income of the student's parents, not on the grades earned by the student.
I see. What do your parents do?
Well, my dad is just an editor, but my mom is a fairly successful dentist. I don't stand a chance.
Really? That's a pity.
Not only does this kind of scholarship discriminate against students with wealthy parents, but it rewards lazy students who don't work as hard. I think these scholarships should be based on merit, not financial need.
I see your point, but someone has to reward lazy students like me.
Question 4. Now read the passage about Vikings and Drakkar. You have 45 seconds to read the passage. Begin reading now. Now listen to part of a lecture on this topic in a history class. As you listen, be sure to take notes.
Good morning, class. Today we'll be talking about the Vikings and their Drakkar or longships. I'm sure most of you know these ships were used over a millennium ago so the Vikings could raid lands and steal riches. But what else do you know about them? Most people think these ships were only used to travel the seas. This isn't true. In fact, the Drakkar ships could travel along rivers that were only 1 meter deep. Can you imagine living in a small village by a river and one of those massive ships suddenly appearing in front of you with 200 Viking warriors? Pretty scary, huh? Drakkar ships were usually owned by a nobleman because no one else could afford to build one. The regular ships were usually about 28 meters in length and had about 20 or 30 oarsmen. However, much larger ones have been found. The biggest one ever uncovered was actually over 70 meters long and was probably owned by a king.
Question 5. Now listen to a conversation between two students.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Pretty good. I'm a little worried about the exams we have soon. How about you?
Oh, I'm a bit stressed, to be honest.
Really? Are you worried about your exams?
Well, it's because of my part-time job. My boss wants me to work in the restaurant 4 weeknights each week. I just don't have the time, especially with the exams coming up. I don't know what to do. I need that job to buy books and meals.
Yeah, that sounds like a problem. I know. Why don't you ask your boss if you can work on the weekend instead? That way, you can study each night during the week and keep your job at the restaurant.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But I play a lot of sports on the weekend and hang out with my friends. It's when I like to relax.
I see. Well, why don't you explain to your boss that you have these exams coming up soon? Maybe you can just work 2 weeknights. That way you have your weekend free and you still have your job.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks. I'll say that to him tonight.
The students discuss two possible solutions to the woman's problem. Describe the problem, then state which of the two solutions you prefer and explain why. Question 6. Now listen to part of a talk in a history class.
Today, we're continuing our series of lectures on the 7 wonders of the ancient world with an examination of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. As described by Greek historians, these gardens were built by King Nebuchadnezzar for his wife, who came from a land far from Mesopotamia. Now, from what we've studied about the marriages of nobles, Who can tell me why Nebuchadnezzar might marry a woman from far away?
To help Babylon? Like to make powerful friends or trade partners with another area.
Very good, Miss Andrews. That's exactly right. So, one reason he had these gardens built was to keep his wife happy and help maintain Babylon's strong relationship with her homeland. Can anyone think of another reason he might build a great green garden in the middle of the hot, dry Middle East?
To impress and attract people from other cities, like tourism.
That's a good thought. I doubt it was for tourism, but I think it was to impress and attract others. Like the giant cathedrals built by Christians in Europe, these gardens were a show of power, a show of wealth that advertised the Babylon way was the right, or at least the powerful way. Indeed, the advertising might have carried over to the historians who reported the gardens. Early reports described the gardens as 400 feet by 400 feet and as tall as 320 feet. In the late 19th century, however, archaeologists excavated Babylon and found the base of the garden building to be only 100 by 150 feet.
Using points and examples from the talk, explain why Nebuchadnezzar built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Writing section. Directions. Be sure your headset is on. This section measures your ability to write in an academic environment. There are 2 tasks in this section. For the first task, there is a reading passage and a lecture. You will write a response to a question based on what you read and hear. For the second task, you will write a response to a question based on your own knowledge and experience. Now, listen to the directions for the first writing task. Integrated writing directions. For this task, you will have 3 minutes to read a passage about an academic topic. You may take notes while reading if you wish. The passage will then disappear and you will hear a lecture about the same topic. While listening, you may also take notes. You will then have 20 minutes to write a response to a question related to the relationship between the lecture and the reading passage. Answer the question as completely as possible using information from both the reading passage and the lecture. The question will not ask you to express a personal opinion. The reading passage will appear again when it is time for you to start writing. You may use your notes from the lecture and the reading to help you answer the question. Typically, an effective response for this task will be 150 to 225 words long. Your response will be graded on the quality of your writing and on the completeness and accuracy of the information you include in your response. If you finish your response before your time is run out, you may click Next to go to the second writing task. Now, you will see the reading passage for 3 minutes. Remember that the passage will be available to you again while you are writing. Immediately after the reading time ends, the lecture will begin. Be sure to keep your headset on until the lecture has ended. Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about. Okay, today's topic is acupuncture. Do you all know what that is?
Yeah, it's when they stick needles in your body.
Correct. Doctors vibrate the needles, and this relieves pain and promotes healing. China has used acupuncture for over 2,000 years, but it wasn't well known in America until 1971, when a reporter for the New York Times wrote about how it helped him recover from surgery. Today, acupuncture has become a popular trend. People are trying it to cure everything from toothaches to cancer. My uncle used it last year for his arthritis. He swears it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, maybe it is. But in truth, we don't know exactly how acupuncture works or why it's effective. We also don't know much about the risks involved in acupuncture treatment. Some studies have shown that acupuncture is safe, if it's performed by well-trained people. What if it's not? In a Norwegian survey of 197 acupuncturists, there were 132 cases of fainting, 8 cases of punctured lungs, and 26 cases where pain actually increased after treatment. If acupuncture is performed improperly, it can cause many different problems, including nerve damage, infections, and hepatitis B. Acupuncturists are usually not medical doctors. Can we trust their diagnoses? The National Council Against Health Fraud doesn't think so. It warns us that acupuncture is a quote-unquote unproven treatment based on quote-unquote primitive ideas. If you want to try it, the Council suggests you should talk with your family doctor first. Summarize the points made in the lecture you just heard. Explain how they cast doubt on points made in the reading.